Society has not collapsed. We should be able to still learn. So comment in the bottom if you can't see any of the things, or if you're not sure about anything that we've talked about in this video. So it's only going to be a short one, but it's going to be focusing on contrasting text. So it's a paper one skill, and we're looking at the comparing and contrasting skills that you need to be able to do. So I've put a link to this particular set of texts in the description already. So if you just want to pause it and then read the text now. Right, you're back with me. So you've read both texts. I'm not going to be reading it from a comprehension point of view. This is for you to do. We're going to look at it. So obviously we've got two texts, both types of journalism. One is from the Metro, and it is obviously very sensationalized. It's tabloid journalism. And we can see that we've got a photo at the top. Headline, women filmed brawling over last toilet roll as coronavirus hysteria hits new low. So we've got a very sensationalized, market-driven newspaper that wants to, obviously the Metro is, even though it's a free newspaper, it's still a tabloid. It wants to sell advertising space, so it wants to get as many people to read it as possible. That's how they get paid. And we have got the story here, a couple of representations, ideas of panic, working class people behaving, irrational behaviour, and a little bit of consumerism. Just an FYI, this is set in New South Wales. It's not a UK news story, but obviously it has been picked up by a British newspaper, which tells you that obviously globalised news is something that is obviously very important, especially in tabloid journalism. In contrast, we have got an article from The Guardian, which is, even as behavioural researchers, we couldn't resist the urge to buy toilet paper. So again, a very similar topic, but very different representations, very different language being used. Okay, so we're going to focus on one thing in particular for contrasting. And often people will say, well, I don't know how to contrast the text. There's too much to talk about, or I can't find any like-for-like comparisons. Right, so remember at GCSE on paper 2, you had to compare the writer's perspectives in question 4. So it's very, very similar, but we're going to be really zooming in on language. So what I would say is, just like GCSE, don't worry about finding every single language comparison. Find a small number and explain them thoroughly. So that's something we're going to do now. We're going to read specifically the use of a syntactic construction. So we're looking at syntax, we're looking at grammar. Again, we're not afraid of words like syntax, it's just a part of grammar, word order. And we're going to be looking at the use of the passive voice, because those of you who've already spotted the colourful bits, you can see we've got the passive voice being used in both texts. Okay, so in text 1, police were called to a supermarket in Sydney after 3 women started smacking each other and pulling each other's hair in a fight over toilet paper. So, firstly, that's the first sentence. It's what we call foregrounding. To foreground something is to mention it right away at the beginning, to make you interested in it, and also to emphasize it and amplify that particular fact. Police were called. We know this is a passive construction because we know it's got the subject, police. Zoom in a bit. We've got police. We've got the be verb, were. And in this case, it's the third person plural form of the be verb, were. And then we've got called. So the past participle of call. So police were called. We know that's a passive sentence because the construction that's passive will always be subject, be verb, past participle. So we can spot that because it comes up quite, it stands out really, really obviously. I've highlighted it for the benefit of us here. So 1, that's important because it's right at the beginning of the text. It's the first main paragraph. It's foregrounding the idea that this is a police matter. It's a criminal matter. And obviously, as a society, we look down on criminal behaviour and we say that it's something that you should avoid, and we shame people who do it. So it's implying that these people, there they are, having that fight, they are acting in a criminal behaviour, antisocial behaviour. So already the discourse and the representation is of shaming them and making them feel sorry for what they've done. Police were called to a supermarket in Sydney after 3 women started smacking each other and pulling each other's hair in a fight over toilet paper. So obviously the rest of that is in active voice. We've got the clauses, women started smacking each other and pulling each other's hair. So think about the verb choice here. So lexical choices, smacking and pulling, both of those denote violent actions, and they've got extra connotations of criminal behaviour, of loutish behaviour. And again, the discourse is saying that even, citizens who are regular consumers are behaving like criminals, and this is obviously because they're panicking because of the coronavirus. Now, you can look at this from the point of view of a newspaper discourse of tabloid journalism. They will often vilify behaviour that they think is loutish. they're working class as well. So we could link this to working class. We could link it to the idea they're being shamed. Yeah. From the point of view of text A, that's pretty much what we can say about active voice. If we just go down to, passive voice, and we move down to text B. Same constructions being used, but for a totally different reason. So this is some behavioural researchers talking about the issue of stockpiling stuff. So again, similar representations, but it's from a different perspective. The purpose of the text is different, and it's a different genre. It's more of an opinion piece. So again, that's going to reflect the language choice inside. So subheading is why toilet paper? It's seen as an essential product without ready substitutes. Toilet paper. Hello, guys. It's all right. And if we move down to the text B, we'll see very different text, very different type of text. And we've got in this example here, as you can see, toilet paper is easily stockpiled and doesn't deteriorate. So straight away we can comment on the use of the passive voice being used once again. So again, subject to the sentence, toilet paper is easily stockpiled. So we've got the subject, we've got the be verb is, and then we've got a little adverb there to kind of amplify how easy it is to do it, stockpiled. So you've got the past participle of stockpile ed on the end. So in contrast, the passive voice is used, but this time it's not to shame anybody. It's not to emphasize the criminal behavior of the first text. It's exactly telling you that toilet paper is an easy to come by thing. It's normal, it's everyday. So the representation here is very different. It's using the same technique, but the representation is about how toilet paper is something that you shouldn't have to steal. It's easily stockpiled, it doesn't deteriorate. So that's one way you can compare a language feature, in this case, the use of passive voice. Hopefully that was a useful video, just a quick little reminder that you can focus on any individual word or construction to make a point. Okay.